Hey fellow ag teachers and woodworking enthusiasts. Today we're going to be talking about refinishing, resurfacing, and bringing alive our surfaces, metal surfaces, on the pieces of equipment in our woodworking shop. And we're going to do that with the help of several materials that I've got here laid out in front of us today. Now, the reason why we need to keep our equipment looking good and keep the rust off of it, keep it nice and smooth, is for two reasons. First reason is that way whenever we are pulling wood or pushing wood on top of this tabletop, we're not going to get a discoloration on that wood from the rust. The next reason is going to allow us to have push the wood smoothly on top of the surface. That way we can prevent any accidents from happening as we are trying to force the wood through. So we're going to try to clean this surface up so that way that wood will go through nice, smooth, and cleanly. Okay. So how we're going to do this is we're going to accomplish this through several pieces of material that I've got with us today. The first thing is our abrasives that we're going to use to break up this rust from the top of the table. First one that we're going to use is a very fine Scotch-Brite pad. Okay, these work very well with marring up the surface and getting that rust off the top of the table. The next one that we're going to use after we make a couple of passes with the red piece is this gray piece of Scotch-Brite. Okay, this is ultra fine, so it's a little bit more of a fine abrasive than what we're going to use on the first pass. Okay, to finish it off, we're going to use a 600 grit polishing sandpaper. Okay, we're going to run it over, and that's going to give us a nice smooth finish. And once we get done with that and have it all nice, clean, and off, we're going to use some finishing wax, and we're going to put it on top of the tabletop and wipe it off. And that's going to give us our really smooth tabletop. Now, we're going to need a lubricant while we're using our Scotch-Brite pads, and what I'm going to use today is some WD-40. That's going to allow us to have a lubricant to be able to scrub on this without scratching up our table saw too bad. Okay, so we're going to spray this on. We're also going to use this tape here, and we're going to put it on top of this other piece of our table saw to keep from marring up plastic finish that's on top of it. Okay, so we don't want to scratch that up. We're going to put this on, that's going to protect it. The next thing we are going to need is some napkins or towels to be able to clean up our mess after each time we run our Scotch-Brite pads on top of the table saw. It's going to clean it up for us and get us ready for the next step. And then to help with moving the abrasives around on the table saw is going to be an orbital sander. I prefer to use an older sander, one that you don't mind getting dirty, that you might not ever use on wood again, because again, we're using WD-40 and we're going to be getting rust all over this, and I would not recommend using one or using a sander that you like to use with working with wood, because you may not be able to use it again, otherwise you're going to stain up the wood that you are working with. Okay, so I would recommend using an older one or one that you're not going to use for your fine woodworking practices. The next thing that I would recommend, because this is such a dirty process, is using some kind of jacket or being in clothes that you don't mind getting dirty. Because this, as you will see in a couple minutes, gets very dirty and can stain up some clothes. So I would recommend having on a jacket of some sort so you don't mind spotting up and getting dirty. And that is pretty much going to be it. To get started, we need to go ahead and be lowering our table saw blades. That way we don't come in contact with it while we're putting our abrasives on the table saw and cleaning it up. So let's go ahead and lower it. Our next video is going to be lubricating the spindles up underneath here of this table saw. If y'all didn't hear the noises that come from the lowering adjusting handle as I was cranking it down. So that's another idea for another video. Now let's go ahead and pull this up and get it out of the way. So before we start spraying our WD-40 on our tabletop, we need to go ahead and put our tape on the part of the table saw that we do not want to scratch up. So let's go ahead and do that first. Now, let's go ahead and get some WD-40 on top of this tabletop so that way we can put some abrasive on it. Okay. So now that we've got some WD-40 on our table saw, we're going to take our orbital sander, we're going to put it on top of our Scotch-Brite pad, our fine pad, and then we're going to go over the whole tabletop and clean up some of the rust. That was some hard work. So we took this red pad, our fine pad, and I went over the whole tabletop and got most of the rust off. We still have a little bit of pitting over here on the side as well as on this area, but I'm hoping over the next couple of times that we go over it with the ultra fine pad, we can kind of smooth it out and get rid of those spots. So what I would recommend, and I didn't have these at the beginning of the video before I started, would be some nitrile gloves or gloves to go over your hands, because again, this is a very messy process. So it's nice to have that, especially if you're going back and forth between doing one thing and another, or working on a project at the same time. You really don't want to stain up with what you're working on. So let's go ahead, let's slap down our ultra fine pad, let's give it a try. Alright, so now that we just used our ultra fine Scotch-Brite pad, now we're going to move on to our 600 grit sandpaper. And what I recommend with doing this is I'll go in the direction of the grain of the tabletop, and in this case it's going to be going with the direction of the blade. And for added protection, so that way you don't have pits and falls and rises in your tabletop, I would use a board to allow even pressure. Okay, so we're going to spray this down again with WD-40, give it a little bit of lubricant, and we're going to go back over this a final time. Hopefully that will take up any kind of impurities that we have left on our tabletop and give us a nice, shiny, smooth surface. So let's get started on this part, and we'll get to where we're doing the paste wax next. Okay, so now we have a nice and polished tabletop for our table saw. We got done with our 600 grit sandpaper, and honestly, it turned out pretty good. It could have been done better. I've got some streaks where I didn't go in exact straight lines along with the grain of the metal. So that's one thing I would really consider and stress on. Another option would be to use an orbital sander to see how that does, but that may be for another video and another time. So what we're going to do now is we're going to finish this project off by putting on our paste wax. And we're just going to apply that with one of our towels that we have, and we're going to put it on there. And what we're going to do is once we get it on there, we get a good liberal amount on the tabletop, we're going to sit there and we're going to wipe it off until it becomes smooth and slick. Okay, at that point we will know that we have the right amount of wax on there and that it is sealed on there and it's ready to throw some wood on. So let's put on this paste wax, see what it does, and we'll come back and get everything set back up on our table saw and ready to go. All right? All right, so there you have it. A nice, new, clean looking table saw that is sure going to send the board through smoothly. So now our students are ready to tackle some hardcore projects in our ag mechanic shop. This whole process took a little bit of work, but the finished product turned out to be beautiful. So hope you consider doing this in your shop. If you have any tips or tricks with you having done it in the past, don't be scared to post these in the comment section as far as to help others out. I know that I don't know everything, but I know together we can make the world a better place. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you learned something. Take care. Have fun in the wood shop.